last at the end of the day. That was on the indicators. Now, as I mentioned, when we make new policies, we need to have some tools to screen these policies. So we need to have a tool where we can do something ex ante before. So we develop some tools which are related to the indicators. And the idea is these tools will help us systematically assess policies and project through this gross national happiness lens, so to speak. The tool which I'll show you is very simple. It's very simple tools, actually. It just has 4. And basically, the 1 denotes a negative score, 2 is uncertain, 3 is neutral, and 4 is positive. For instance, if you're talking about stress, the variable stress, and we are talking about a particular policy, we'll say that policy, in terms of stress, will it increase, likely increase levels of stress, likely do not know the effects of on levels of stress, will not have any appreciable effects on levels of stress, which means you know and you find it will not have a bad impact, or will decrease levels of stress. And we have taken the threshold to be 3 as a precautionary principle. It's only if you know and then you know it will not have a bad effect, then it passes. So 4 obviously passes. And underneath you see, this framework is done by a heterogeneous group of people, not by an individual. So usually 20-30 mixed group. And whatever they choose, they must write the rationale for choosing, and in term, if they have selected 1 or 2, the mitigating measures. This is very important, so we know what is the motivation behind what they have selected. So for instance, there's 23 of these variables, and if they received a scoring like I've shown here, then the total score would be just 44 out of 92. So since the threshold for the policy to be passed is 69, using 3 as a threshold, in this case, it means a policy must be reviewed because score is below threshold. Now we actually have used these tools, and we used it in 2 instances. One on a national human resource development policy, and this tool is used both at that ministry where they are originating the policy and in my organization, the GNH Commission. And in both this, we found the scoring is quite similar. My secretariat gave it a scoring of 73, the Ministry of Labor and Human Resource a scoring of 70, both crossed the threshold of 69. Now, as we speak, extremely important debate going on is Bhutan's accession to WTO. And so we had carried out an exercise in my organization. And my colleagues got together and had a discussion on joining WTO and what would be the benefits and advantages, disadvantages. The first discussion they had was the conventional discussion. Okay, if you join WTO, you'll have access to markets, you'll have the security of the rule-based system, so on and so forth. And at the end of that discussion, in which I did not participate, they voted, and 19 were for joining WTO, and 5 were against. Then this same group of people, I gave them the GNH policy screening tools and told them to run through run the decision of joining WTO through it. I'll just take you through some of the variables and what results they came. For instance, in the case of equity, they felt that joining WTO, 9 felt that it will probably favor higher income groups more than lower income groups. And if you are concerned about a Gini coefficient and increasing disparity, you'll want to be careful. Only 4 felt it will probably favor lower income groups more than higher income groups joining WTO. In terms of economic security, if you look at the highest scores, 9 felt that they do not know what the differential effects may be of joining WTO on the economic security within the population. 5, however, felt it will probably result in a net decrease in economic security within the population, and 3 felt the other way. It will probably result in a net increase in economic security. In terms of material well-being, and as you can see, 11 felt joining WTO will probably result in a net increase in feelings of material well-being within the population, and only 1 felt it will probably result in a net decrease in feelings of material well-being. Stress. In terms of the variable stress, 13 felt joining WTO will probably increase the number of people feeling stressed in the population, and only 2 felt it should decrease the number of people feeling stressed in the population. Having done that, they voted, and this was the result. It was the exact opposite. So as we speak, this debate is ongoing, and Bhutan has not joined WTO. And it appears that debate will go on for some time now, but our accession process has basically stalled. So basically, this is how we're using these tools, the GNH indicators, and our hope is it will achieve the vision His Majesty the King had of guiding our development in a manner where it is always consistent with enhancing the well-being of the population. And if I was to say, based on this very short history of actually working with tools, then I would say basically the lessons I see is three. One is that the GNH indicators are helping to make the public policy making framework more holistic and complete. As I mentioned, most governments, we just focus on the economy, health sectors, and environment in a small way. But there's so many other things our people care about, and if the government is for the people, then I cannot see why the government does not consider those other aspects which are important, like the strength of our communities, the importance of voluntary work, the importance of leisure time, etc. So in that sense, I feel a holistic framework does help government to make much better decisions, even based on this just 2 years of experience. The second is it provides additional feedback, which is very powerful. For instance, like most countries, in health, our number one objective is to enhance the life expectancy of our people. And in developed countries like Japan, people now live, life expectancy at birth is, I think, over 90. But you know, in these very same societies, if you go, the quality of life as you get older is so poor. Literally, people face so much loneliness. Social fabric is so weak that no one is visiting. And then it begs the question, I mean, that you have to look things in its totality. I think we want longer lives, certainly, but we want longer lives that are as happy. So I think this GNH indicators brings this other half, which then makes the decision making much more, which informs the decision making in much more powerful ways. One example I'll give you is Bhutan, because we have an extremely strong conservation policy, half of our country protected areas. One of the problems of such a good conservation policy is most of our farms are in forests, and many of our farmers lose their crops to wildlife crop depredation. Wild boars, porcupines, monkeys, deers, and in the south, elephants. These are the main problem for our people. Because we are a poor country, we do not have the resources to provide the compensation. So we sort of know this is a problem, but we don't do anything about it. But when we did this indicator work, and when we looked at those emotions under psychological well-being, we saw the anger, quite a large number. And this allows you, the data allows you to go further in between and look at whether it's gender or region-wise, occupation-wise. And we saw it was more pronounced among farmers. So the wildlife crop depredation is actually showing up in terms of people's negative emotions being affected. Now that is a very powerful message, and then we sit up and take notice that we cannot just be casual about it. So it is very powerful feedback. Compared to objective, I mean, it complements objective indicators and really strengthens the feedback. And lastly, I feel that based on this 2 years experience, having a framework of common aspirations that we make explicit in indicators is powerful, both to gauge and guide government action, but also because it provides a framework for individuals. And I think that is very important, and hopefully we feel this may bring a new dimension to our democracy, our fledgling democracy, and that it will have a very positive influence on the behavior of our elected leaders now and in the future. Thank you very much for your kind attention.